Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Discovering Multifamily podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Scandariato. And today we have a special guest here with us, Esther Reizes-Lowenbein. And we appreciate her coming on the show today. She's got a very broad background in real estate. And the focus of today's episode is just the importance of knowing, the real estate industry, but knowing a lot of different parts in the industry. So very curious to hear your story, Esther, and has experience with residential, and I think you mentioned warehouses and multifamily. Obviously, this is her favorite, but I'll let her kind of talk about her background and what she's up to.
All right, happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Firstly, I really enjoy listening to your podcast. So
thank you.
I think I listened to every single one of them.
I appreciate it. I think this is episode 65, so we'll keep that in check.
I'm honored to be here.
Thank you.
All right. Should I start? I'll start with my journey, how I got into real estate. So I'm actually a speech language pathologist, and I was practicing until about 2.5 years ago. And for several reasons, I switched over and began my journey into real estate. One of the reasons were I was working with many children, and then as my children were growing, it was hard to work with children and then come home to children. I said I need to see adults and then have patience for my kids when they get home. So that was one major factor. This is definitely an adult, career. The second reason is I moved from Brooklyn, New York to Rockland County, New York. And the shift in as a speech language pathologist was totally different. In Brooklyn, I worked in one school with one agency, versus moving to Rockland, I would have to travel from home to home. So I said, if I have to travel from home to home, I'm going to sell the homes and not work in them. So that's how I got into real estate. There were some other factors involved, but those were the two main reasons that I'm going to share today. So I got into residential, and I still do some residential in the area. I really enjoy the process. I enjoy seeing the houses, meeting the people. And then I also shifted a bit into commercial for various reasons, and I'm really glad I did. I absolutely love it. I consider myself a serial networker. I like meeting people, and it feeds my extrovertness. So that's really good for me. I get to meet people, socialize, talk to people, and in the meantime, present properties, and I like numbers, and the money isn't too bad either.
Nice. Yeah, the money's always a plus. So can you kind of talk about your transition from being a speech pathologist and like you said, you're kind of a serial networker now, and that's what a lot of, good real estate professionals are. Could you kind of talk about how easy that was or how difficult that was for you?
So it was actually really, really easy because I was getting very burnt out as a speech language pathologist. It was just very repetitive, and scheduling was hard. I absolutely loved the job and I loved the students, but it was getting to me at a certain point. I also had two of my own children that were born with the exact issues that I studied for all the years. Like, it was really, really, strange, or I guess a coincidence that what I studied for was exactly what two of my children were born with. I mean, maybe God led me on that journey until I needed to be there. And then I shifted careers once that was over with. Thank God they're doing well. So my transition to real estate has been amazing. I really enjoy this. I do this as a hobby. So I like the hustle. I like meeting people. So I do it. I really enjoy it. There are obviously some very difficult aspects of it, like in every job. There's a lot of disappointments and letdowns and etc. But it's important to stay focused and keep going, and always look out for the next deal. You never know what's going to come your way. So what got me into another reason I got into real estate was when we purchased our home in Rockland County about 3.5 years ago. I was not involved at all in the process. I don't even think I knew what a mortgage was at the time. My husband and I would have this joke that we were in a workshop. He would work and I would shop. I would just like swipe the credit card and I had no clue about any finances or anything. And then one day I'm like, I just need to start learning. I need to start knowing what's out there. So I started just listening to every single podcast I can, asking as many questions as I can, learning as I go. And I really enjoy the process.
Awesome. So what have you found the most interesting in the real estate industry? Is it on the selling side, on the buying side, on the connecting side, on the investing side? What's the most interesting to you so far?
Well, as an extrovert and as a networker, I like meeting people. I just like, matching. I'm like a matchmaker, matching properties to people. I really enjoy that part very much. Whether it's on the buyer's end or on the seller's end, it's a lot of fun. I don't stomach risk really, really well, so I don't particularly enjoy delving into the investment part. I leave that to my husband. He can handle that. So I can risk my time, but for me to risk money is like gut wrenching. So.
Right. Can you talk about, we were talking a little bit before the show, your, I guess, favorite asset classes? I think number one, you mentioned multifamily, but how difficult it is to find a deal right now?
Yeah. So I just from networking and meeting people, I created a list of a few hundred investors. And most of my clients were asking for multifamily investments anywhere in the US, over 100 units. That's the main request I get from most people. I guess so many people want it. It's a high demand. There's low inventory right now. So yes, I'm still looking for multifamily properties, but I branched into office spaces and warehousing. Warehousing right now is very hot. A lot of people want warehouses. So I'm actually representing a few sellers on warehouses, and we're selling an office building. Yes, I'm a little bit all over the place, selling land, involved in hospitality, very diversified.
Nice. And I think diversification is the key. And then, over time, you have your specialty that you kind of focus on, but I think the diversity is the key. And so is there any particular area that you specifically focus on?
Not necessarily. I just literally pick up, whatever I find. Any property I find. Right now I'm representing sellers on office space and warehousing. I'm representing buyers on multifamily, like smaller amount of units. Representing on land, representing residential. So I'm a little bit like on all ends. Very, very diversified. It's interesting. Many people tell me like, just focus on one thing, do what you're good at. And I'm like, why? Why not focus on everything? First of all, I like learning about everything. I like being in the know. So it's my chance to learn about everything. And in addition, it's why not? If I can get my hands on an office building and I know a buyer that's going to, be interested in it, why not?
Yeah, why not? That's a good mindset to have. Can you talk a little bit about that learning process too, for some of our listeners who are looking to make a transition from a completely different industry? I mean, speech pathology is, as you know, it's completely different than real estate,
Yeah.
especially once you get into the investment side. Can you talk about that learning curve? Like what helped you? You mentioned the podcasts have been helping you educate yourself. Have there been any other materials that you studied, or any advice you have for some newbies that listen to the show?
Yes. So first of all, I come with a communications background, so that really helps me as a realtor. So my speech language pathology background comes into play. Comes into help over here. That's one thing. But people do ask me. They say like, "Oh, I see you're working on so many things. It seems so exciting. I want to do what you want to do." And I tell them it's not all glamorous. It's not all that glamorous. There's so much to know. You cannot be afraid to ask questions. You need to ask. You need to research. You need to know what's going on. You need to research the markets. You need to, do comparative market analysis. You cannot just sit back and expect all the information to come into you. You have to go out there and read as much as you can. I read books. I listen to podcasts whenever I'm driving. This is what I'm doing. I don't watch movies. I don't do anything else. I live and breathe real estate.
Good.
Yeah, so you have to be really motivated to sort of make it.
Awesome. And can you talk about that a little bit more in terms of this business is really a passion business, right? You have to really love it, or like you said, you're not going to make it. At least long term. You might have a couple of good years, and then, then what? Can you kind of talk about that? Like what, is it what really attracts you to the industry? I know you mentioned the fast paced kind of, relationship part of it.
Yeah.
Is that the number one, or is there anything else?
I say like I developed ADD in my old age, that I just like can't sit still, and I just got to keep busy, very, very busy. But yeah, I really, really enjoy it. I really do. Thank God my husband's in the business world, so we're slowly coming into the real estate investing world ourselves. And I also like to be in the know, so I keep on learning and, whatever I can. I'm just very, very self-motivated. So I can, I think that really helps me just to keep on going. It's also very important to have, to stay very focused and not get let down when things don't work out. I was working on this land deal for, say, 2 months, every single day, day in, day out. And it was like about to happen, and then it just fell through. So I can't let that sink me down. I have to just, take that as a lesson and, learn what I can from that and keep on growing from that.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you never know, it could always come back. That's what I always tell people. Everything in this business, at least somewhat can come back if something falls through. So definitely having backups and other things. And,
Right.
One deal is not going to make or break you, because, if you focus on that, you're never going to get anything done.
Right.
So
I
that's
do
great.
think that also one of the reasons I really enjoy it is that because I'm not dependent on it. It's a hobby for me.
Right.
So I feel like in a way I have an advantage over others, that I'm not, relying on the money from this. I do it as out of passion, out of a hobby, so I can enjoy the process, even though things don't always work out.
Right. Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. And you mentioned you're in Rockland County. Is there anywhere specifically that you've advised clients in Rockland, or is it in New York City? Or you mentioned it's all over the place, right?
Yes, I do residential only in Rockland, in my area. It's a beautiful place. People should totally come check it out. I mean, I'm sitting right in front of my view. We see the Hudson River, we see Manhattan. It's beautiful right here. Also the foliage now, it's the change of colors. It's so gorgeous. You don't get that in the city. So it's definitely a place where people can come check out. And it's in the suburbs. So a lot of people now are moving from New York City to the suburbs. So it's definitely something to check out. Commercial wise, I'll go out. I'll go out of Rockland. I'll go out of New York. I'm all over. I'm selling right now an office building in Pennsylvania, for example. So I'm diversified in assets, and I'm diversified on locations.
Good. That's always good, because if one tide sinks, then you can always have another one that will back you up. So
Yeah.
that's really good. How can my listeners find you, Esther, if they want to reach out to you, learn more about you?
All right. So first of all, I started writing as well for New York Lifestyle Magazine. So I've written a few articles there. You can go check that out. Really interesting information about real estate investing versus investing in the stock market, and why it's beneficial to invest in real estate for tax purposes and scalability, especially multifamily.
Sure.
Tax benefits, and people always need a place to live. So that's hence multifamily is vital. They can find me through my articles. They can find me on LinkedIn as Esther Reizes-Lowenbein. I'm on Instagram as Esther Lowenbein. Yeah, I'm quick to respond, and I look forward to helping many buyers, sellers, and investors.
Great. Esther, thank you so much for coming on the show. And we'll have a link to Esther's, I guess you said magazine articles. I'm going to try to find them. If you could
Yeah,
send that to me, that would be great.
sure.
And then LinkedIn and Instagram and any other social media platforms that she's on after the show in the iTunes description. Esther, thanks so much again for coming on the show. I really appreciate your time and hope to have you on again in the future.
Thank you. Thanks so much. I'm honored to be here. I love listening to your info, and you have great content on your podcast.
Thank you. You just got added to the list.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.